Folks? Steve Holmes streaming from the drum room here in Los Angeles once again. Every time it's an adventure getting this stuff set up. We're doing Restream, which is blasting it to Facebook and YouTube and Twitter, actually, and Twitch. But I never broadcast anything on my Twitch channel, so I don't think anyone's going to be there. Anyway, we do this every week or so. We play drums. We get it out of our system. It's kind of our therapy for the week because it's been another crazy week of real life. So, yeah, we're going to play some drums. We're going to get warmed up. Then maybe we'll turn on a click track to play along to the click at different tempos just to practice that and have some fun. But really, this is all about the chatting. It's all about the Q&A and the dialogue. So post those questions, post those comments, and let's talk drumming because I feel like that's kind of more fun than actual drumming sometimes. We'll see. But enough talk. Let's get the drum cam happening. What's up? This is the drum cam. We need to redo the lights in here because we got like cymbals that are, all washed down and whatever. Speaking of cymbals, I posted the cymbal setup and the drum setup in the description this time because everyone always asks, understandably so, hey, like what cymbals are you using? And so just check the description for that stuff. So let's do some drumming. My name's Steve Holmes. Thanks for hanging out. Post those questions and comments, and let's have some fun. It's all about drumming and having fun. Had to cut myself off there. Ooh, what's up, folks? This is Steve Holmes streaming live. A lot of times I start playing and I'm just like, I just go too long, man. I watch these things after the fact and there's just way too much crap and repeating myself, you know? So I had to cut myself off and maybe move on to something else or see what people are saying or blah, blah, blah. Anyways, we're streaming live from Los Angeles. Let's see. We got some folks from YouTube. We got some folks from Facebook. Let's see what the Twitter stream looks like. Restream isn't feeding it into my chat thing. Yeah, looks okay. Anyways, what's up, folks? This is Steve Holmes. We're doing some drumming. We're going to talk about drumming. Oh, let's see. Michael Carter on Facebook says, my daughter just started taking drum lessons and we watched together. Awesome. Mr. Holmes, if I wanted a clown, I would have gone to the circus, is what my biology teacher said in high school, and only Michael Carter will recognize that. Anyways, sorry to go on and on. Let me know how it sounds. We are always tweaking the sound setup here. I got some new gear and trying to get it dialed in still. So let's see what folks are saying here. Let's see. Michael says, I'm here. James McGathy says, loving the free flow, Steve. Thank you for streaming this afternoon. Happiest of holidays to you. James, thank you. Happy holidays to you too, sir. Oh, you guys, Matthias is here on YouTube. Hey, Steve. Great sound and playing. Greetings from Germany. Matthias. Yeah, amazing drummer. Any drummer that wants to check out some amazing drumming, click on Matthias on YouTube there. Or Facebook, actually. Lorca from Spain. Hi, Steve. Man, crazy. Could you give us some syncopation job? Some job. Yeah, syncopation exercises. Maybe we'll do that. We'll see. Oh, Darren Altman says hello from London. Darren, how are you, sir? Longtime House of Drumming member. Yeah, Darren, hope things are going well with you. Oh, shit, it's Chris Para. Tom's up a hair, but everything else sounds great. Okay, good feedback. Says Chris Para, Tom's up a hair. All right, let's do that. We're going to screen share here. Getting rid of OBS. And here's Restream. This is the new mixer here. Let's make sure. Sorry about the Hall of Mirrors. I just want to make sure that, yeah, the mic is still on so you guys can hear me. Yeah, this is the mixer that we're going with right now. And these are the toms here at the bottom, tom 1, 2, and 3. Yeah, I'll move them up a friggin' smidge for you there, Chris. All right. Now my mix is broken. It's all your fault. I blame you. I don't know if that's gonna. It's probably too much now. Let's see. Let's turn. Had to end with the guj. It's a tradition here. For those that don't know what the guj is floor tom and usually like a China type cymbal together for the guj. Yeah, so I turned up the toms a little, Chris. Let me know. Oh man, because I don't have like monitors going here, so It's probably way too much now. Everyone's going to be like, what are you doing? Oh, man. Okay. Oh, nice. Chris and Matthias are like, hey, it sounds great. Wonder about how to set up that hi-hat to not to run into issues when using traditional grip. Oh, that's a good question. More kick, less 300K. I should just we'll just give you guys full control of the mix here. Yeah, I'm still like dialing this stuff in, like that program that we were looking at before. Let's see if we can do that. Yeah, the laptop mic is still on. We'll get rid of this. But like, I am not an engineer, you guys. I just kind of go with what sounds good to my ear. And I recently got an Apollo Twin X box. Sorry, it's just called Apollo Twin X. And these are all the channels. I have a room mic and then an overhead mic and then, kick, snare, blah, blah, blah. But I just have, this is the EQ on the kick. And it's not, between the kick and then the overhead in the room. And then everything's going to this. This is the thing that makes it sound huge. But yeah, these are all UAD plugins, and I'm pretty happy with them so far. The benefit to this stuff is that it's all kind of like real-time processing, which I think is pretty cool. Previously, I was processing my drum sound via Logic, which kind of introduced some latency. And I wanted to play along with the click track and play along tracks and stuff. And I couldn't do that with Logic. So the Apollo stuff is great because it's an actual piece of hardware that processes the drum signals before it actually gets to the computer almost instantly, which is pretty cool. You just have to, use those UAD plugins on each channel to get the sound that you want. And again, I'm not an engineer, and so I've enlisted the help of a lot of engineers and talked to a lot of people. And I'm doing what my friends and coworkers call figure it out studios. But I'm in a place now where I'm somewhat satisfied with it enough, certainly, to keep streaming. Anyway, let's see. Nice flowing and playing. Let's see what folks are saying. We talked about syncopation exercise, maybe. Wondering about how to set up the hi-hat to not run into issues while using traditional grip. Yeah, I'm not sure what specifically you mean. I mean, in terms of traditional grip and the hi-hat, it's not really in my way, when playing, backbeat grooves. And I have it, I kind of have it forward of the snare drum. I have it in a place where I can access it with my left hand just fine, I've got it pretty high, though, I must say. In terms of height, I used to have my stuff, a little bit higher. But the thing that I'm going for in terms of height of drums, etc., is it was pointed out to me that if the drum is too high, then the stick will hit the drum before it gets to the climactic point of the stroke, which is bad, right? When you're hitting the drum, the climactic point of the stroke is about halfway, and so you can see, my arm's at a 90-degree angle, and that's about where the drum is, right? So I don't want it high such that it'll hit the drum before it gets there. I don't want it to hit the drum here. I'll kind of want it to hit the drum here. And so that's the thinking with that. But in terms of hi-hat and traditional grip, yeah, I'm not sure. I would need some more details to get into specifics. Let's see. Thanks for the feedback on the sound. Hey, Steve, sounds great. Says Taka. Taka's back. You guys, Taka has been in the stream before. What's up, Taka? What kind of camera switcher are you using? I don't have a camera switcher. I just have OBS and different scenes in OBS. I have a scene for each camera. This camera is actually the camera that's in my laptop. It's a new MacBook Pro. MacBook Pro 16-inch M1. And so this is the camera for that, and this is also running OBS. But I have an old iPhone going for my overhead cam, and I'm using an OBS plugin to be able to switch to that camera. So I'm just clicking on different scenes in OBS to do the camera stuff. By the way, what's the interface you're using? Says Marcus. Don't worry, all the gear sound. So sorry, what interface you use for recording? I mean, I have a Focusrite. I have an old Focusrite Sapphire 40 that my mics are going into, and that's actually going ADAT optical into the Appollo Twin X. So the Apollo Twin X is doing the processing of all the channels. And the program that I saw before, that I was showing before, the mixing program, it's called Console, and that comes with any Apollo hardware. If you buy any Apollo hardware, you get Console, and you also get a recording program I think called Luna, which I have not tried, but apparently it's Luna's, you know, basically it's got parity with like Logic, but I haven't tried it, so I shouldn't say I don't know what I'm talking about. But the Console interface is what's driving the sound in all the channels. It comes for free when you get Apollo hardware, and the Apollo stuff is not cheap. But again, it's a piece of hardware that will process all the plugins, and there's so many plugins you can get that are basically virtual versions of real studio hardware, which is really cool. So if you know what you're doing with studio gear, then the Apollo hardware lets you do virtual versions of all kinds of gear with almost no latency. Chris Paris says Luna is only on Mac, so that's worth mentioning. So sorry, Windows guys, no Luna recording for you, but I like Logic anyway, myself, which is also on Mac, obviously. I don't think there's a Logic version on Windows. But for this kind of thing, like, I think you're asking for trouble if you're using Windows, honestly. I think it's a no-brainer to use Mac hardware for this stuff. So we're all caught up with the chat. Let's turn on the click and do some playing with the click. So give me a moment here to get this set up. We're gonna turn on the click. The click's only gonna be on counts like 1 and 3, but it's gonna be very slow. So we're gonna start slow. And what I do when I'm playing with a click is, you know, I start simple, and I kind of, you know, it's like a dance. You know, like I want to make sure I'm with it, make sure that you know the time is where I expect it to be. And we just kind of go through all the subdivisions and play some stuff. And I equate it to kind of like swimming. It's like the more comfortable you get in the pool, you know, you start in the shallow end and you kind of slowly tiptoe towards the deep end being like, okay, I'm going to start to play some stuff and see if I'm like still with, you know, within the click, kind of like on the grid of the click, give or take. You know, and a lot of times, you know, you'll be on the grid for a while. And if you can't hear the click, that's a good sign, because that means you're right on it. But occasionally I'll stumble on a fill or a phrase that is just completely early or late, and then I'll stop and just kind of like, you know, repeat that phrase over and over and kind of get it to go with the click. So let's do that. We're gonna go like some uncomfortable, like 83 BPM or something crazy. So let me get this going. Thanks for hanging out, folks. My name is Steve Holmes. We're going to turn on a metronome and see if we can play drums to it. Okay? Man, talk about embarrassing. Really could not get that double bass stuff going. But I guess that's the point, right? Warts and all. That stuff is hard, you know? And I mean, obviously what's happening is like, you know, the click sounds slow, but you just end up kind of like thinking in double time and playing your stuff in double time and that kind of thing. So yeah, that was counts 1 and 3 at 83 BPM. That's what that was, you know? And I feel like the wheels really started coming off there with the double bass stuff, but I am no double bass wizard. And after a while, you're just trying to cram these phrases like inside of corner notes, and I kind of can't help it. Like these are the ideas that you get. You know, this is part of the purpose of this for me, is to like, you know, improvise, like truly improvise, like play the ideas that come to mind. And sometimes your body can't play the things that your brain wants it to play, and that's part of the process. That's why we practice, literally. So hope that sounded okay. Let's see what folks are saying. Can you speak about what your throw process is when you're playing over the bar line? Give us an example of counting and knowing where the 1 is. Man, this is not the best drummer in the world. I don't know who is. I know there's tons of drummers better than me. Matthias, it's fun to hear the click on the last 16th note and listen to your playing that way. Some very interesting ideas come up. All right, we'll have to give that a try. Man, I like only on the last 16th. Like I haven't tried that. I could probably get that happening eventually. I'd have to work on it though before I'm ready to like completely suck at it, like live in color. Let's see, turn the click down. Otherwise sounds terrific. All right, yeah, we'll bring the click down. We'll bring the click down a little bit, actually. Let's do that. We like to share when we adjust the mix. Let's share. All right, this is our crazy stream screen here. The click is here actually, and this is the level of the click. So we'll bring it down a little. This is the console interface. That's where the magic happens. Quote unquote magic. Quote unquote. My name is Steve Holmes. Thanks for hanging out. Post those questions, post those comments. If you're on YouTube, actually, I don't know if I have monetization enabled. But if anyone's interested in supporting the channel on PayPal, I'm at steveholmes@gmail.com. Or drum lessons for that matter, same way, steveholmes@gmail.com. So we can do Zoom lessons or in-person lessons if you're in the LA area. So yeah, always available for teaching. Teaching is fun. I really enjoy teaching actually and talking about drumming. But yeah, thanks for hanging out. Let's see what folks are saying. Let's see. Someone asked about the throw process when playing over the bar line. And can you give us an example of counting and knowing where the 1 is? Well, I mean, honestly, like, at the risk of sounding however that sounds, like I always know where 1 is. And that's part of the goal, is to always know where 1 is. And that just comes from internalizing the quarter note and getting that internal kind of clock going and being able to know what count you're on at any time when listening to music or when listening to drumming, you know, listening to guys trade, you know, when you're playing jazz and feeling the phrasing. Because after a while, once you get familiar with, you know, phrasing in all the subdivisions, all the main subdivisions anyway, quarters, eighths, 16ths, triplets, 16-note triplets, 32nd notes, etc., and how different accents feel within those subdivisions, then really the phrasing kind of spells out the time. It should anyway, in my opinion. And I try to take that approach most of the time, certainly not all the time. But that's key. That's a key part of, like, you know, getting good time is like being able to feel phrasing. And being able to, I mean, if you spend time counting, like they have drum machines and stuff where you can actually get the click to announce the time, like 1, 2, 3, 4, you know. So that helps. Listening to music that maybe where the time is deceptive, and, you know, just spend time, you know, counting either out loud or to yourself, and just kind of spoon feed to your brain like where the time is. Or take a tricky rhythmical phrase, and I find it helpful to write it out. You know, it doesn't have to be like a complete drum set transcription. You know, if you just write out like one tricky rhythm, and, you know, look at where the notes are in relation to the quarter note, I find that helpful as well, because having that visual indicator of, you know, where something falls, like either right before the downbeat, or right in the middle, or right on it, etc. That'll help with internalizing phrasing, that kind of thing. But I mean, so that's talking about internalizing, you know, talking about like knowing where the 1 is. It's not just about knowing where 1 is, it's about knowing where all the counts are, not just 1. It's just 1, you know, 1 gets an emphasis because, you know, you're playing stuff and then you come out boom on 1, or maybe you don't come out on 1, you keep going over the bar line, like you're also asking about, or truth be told, yeah, for playing over the bar line. I mean, really, the thing about playing over the bar line, it's like it's deceptive because it sounds like, you know, you're kind of extending, you know, the time signature of the bar, but really you're not. So, you know, for example, if you take a simple fill in 4/4, you know, like on counts 3 and 4, you know. So if you play like, you know, a 4-bar phrase, and on bar 4, you play a very simple fill and then come out on 1, right? So if you're like 1, 4, right? So on bar 4, you know, we played a groove for 2 counts, and then on counts 3 and 4, we went, you know, but that doom, stega doom, ba, right? So going over the bar line means continuing that same fill, but instead of coming out on 1, you continue into the count, you continue to fill into the next bar, right? So you're going over the bar line, right? So that same fill, but if we were to go over the bar line and add more notes to it, it would sound like this, right? Right? So instead of zet doom degadoom ba, it's zet doom degadoos stegadoos ta ta 4 1 2 3 4. Right? That's what that is, right? And so if I were to hear someone, you know, do that, you know, and if you have that internal quarter note, you know, going, you could, you know, memorize it and sing it the way I just sang it right now. So again, it's like, you know, boom dat zet doom degadoom stegadoos ta ta 4 1 2 cha. That kind of thing, right? So the fill, again, goes over the bar line. And if you're having trouble doing that or understanding that, then the way to practice that would be to take that fill, right, that is on counts 3 and 4, and then also goes over the bar line to counts 1 and 2, and just chop it in half, right? And make sure that you understand both halves of it. The first half is zet do stegadoon, right? Zet doom degadoon, counts 3 and 4. So you're like 1 2 zet doom degadoon 1 2 right? So the second half is zetadat bat bat, right? That's what I did, right? So I'll play it again, right? Right, so that's the fill. And so the second half of that fill starts on the count of 1, right? And it's 1 2 3 4. Right, so counting out, you know, ba da da ba ba 4 ba da da ba ba. Like take the troubled part, the part that's giving you a problem, and just loop it and sing it over and over, play it over and over. And you'll notice, like when I'm snapping my fingers, I'm moving my hand to 4 positions because I'm picturing 4 quarter notes, like 1 2 3 4 da 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 4 1 da da 3 4 da 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 3 4 1. Right, so that's the second half of this fill, right? But the whole fill takes place. The whole fill is 4 quarter notes, but it takes place on 3 and 4, and then 1 and 2. Right, so it goes over the bar line. This is a very basic example of going over the bar line, because Truth Be Told on YouTube asked about that. So let's play it again. So 4 bars of groove, and on the 4th bar, we're going to play a fill that goes over the bar line. Okay, but just keep counting. Right, I'll see if I can count. Right, let's see if I can actually count. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 2. Right? Like I did it, it took effort, but I was able to do it. So just that, like bars 4 and then, you know, bar 5, I guess, or the first bar of the next 4 bar phrase. 1, 2, right? That's exactly what it is. 1, 2, 1. Right? So, you know, if you were to write that out, it would be helpful to visualize, you know, and see the 4 bars, see the fill, you know, on the end of bar 4, and then, you know, the new bar in the new 4 bar phrase, the first bar rather, and see how that fill kind of continues on. Da 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 cha cha. And again, if you're having problems with this, split it up. And if the second half is giving you a problem, then just loop that second half, you know. Alright, so last time really slow. 1, 2, 4. Right, there you go. So that's a demonstration of how going over the bar line works. And, you know, keeping in mind where the notes of the bar fall in relation to the quarter note, in relation to the 4 bar phrase. Okay, so this is a simple example. But the good news is that more complicated examples, the same principle applies. It's just that you're probably playing, you know, a more dense subdivision, a faster subdivision, or, you know, when you go over the bar line, you maybe take it even further and just continue to go into like counts 3 and 4, you know. But the good news is, like, the quarter note never changes. The quarter note never stops if you're in 4/4 and you're not changing time signatures. You know, this is the beauty. This is where the freedom comes in. You know, this is where the freedom comes in, is getting that internal quarter note and being able to play stuff and never losing where that 1 is, you know, because that will give you the freedom of not worrying, because people worry about this stuff. Like, oh, what if I play a fill and then I kind of lose where 1 is? Like, don't think about fills and the count of 1. Think about everything. Think about your playing, not just for fills, but like grooves, and understand, you know, the mathematics of rhythm, kind of from a top-down view. You know, I suck at math, but this stuff never changes, you know, and I've said this in other streams, but it's true. The beauty of this stuff is once you learn it, you don't have to worry about like getting the new version of rhythms, the 2023. Like, this is it. Like, once you understand this stuff, it's never going to change, and it's only going to help you, you know. It's only going to help you get freedom to play what you want and not have to worry about, like, is it in time? Whether or not it's musically appropriate is a completely different thing. But, you know, a cool thing to do is, once you get the hang of this stuff, is like you could start, you know, leaving space and omitting stuff and create phrases and spaces within phrases. But the quarter note's never going to change, you know. And you can hear me do that, like, with that click. Like, let's turn the click back on, and maybe I'll try to play like a little bit more deceptively. And let's bring the tempo up. Say, like, I don't know, 112. You know, and maybe I'll turn the click down a little bit And I'll try to play a little bit more deceptively. But listen for that click. Like, it's not going to be obvious, but listen for it, and I'll leave space. I don't know. I'll just try to play like rhythmically deceptive stuff, but it will all be in time, which is the point. So, little metric modulation, going into 6/8, putting accents like a 16th after the downbeat, playing a straight eighth groove, but instead of playing it, on the beat, just placing it by a 16th. All this stuff is possible if you know where the quarter note is and you've spent some time working on this stuff. But playing it is just the final step. The first step is like understanding it, and not even understanding it like on the kit, just understanding it rhythmically and playing it like in a basic way before you even take it to like boom chick, boom boom chick, like just like boom 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 boom, just like one voice, playing it one voice, whether you're clapping it, you're tapping it, or you're just playing it on the snare drum, like a good example of kind of a rhythmically deceptive phrase is, the triplet thing where the eighth note rest is on every fourth one, where like this, like. Where's the pulse on that? Is it dagadat, dagadat, dagadat? Or is it dagadat, stadadat, stadadat? Gotcha. Like writing that out, understanding that phrase where it falls in relation to the quarter note, being able to switch gears from the real quarter note to the deceptive quarter note, if you will. That kind of thing. Switching gears, like in different fields and blah, blah, blah. Like we're getting redundant now, but someone asked about feeling one and going over the bar line, and we kind of veered into, because it's much more productive to zoom, like when you're talking about a specific thing, to zoom out and be like, okay, how do we really do this thing? Like what, it's not so much like, here's how you do this thing. It's what allows me to do this thing. And understanding like more broader concepts allows me to do this thing. It's not like, well, here's how you do this one thing, because that means you're just going to take everything one item at a time. And like that's appropriate sometimes, but I prefer to in addition to doing that, zoom out and kind of see big picture, because that's going to help you get freedom. And for me, that's important, you know, and it's a never ending journey. That's the beauty of this stuff. Like, I'm 50. Like I'm still like, you know, still trying to get to that place where it's like, you know, sit and play the ideas and play them in time and apply that to music and all of that stuff, you know. I hope to one day wake up and not have drumming in my head and I can finally sell all this crap and live my life in peace. But that has not happened yet. Oh, man. All right. That was for Truth Be Told. Anyone interested in supporting the channel, steveholmes@gmail.com on PayPal. I don't have a what's a Patreon. I don't have a Patreon or a membership thing going, because I don't do this often enough to where, you know, I can do that. But if anyone wants to contribute, that's how to do it, and that would be welcome. All right, so we turn the click down a little bit. Let's go. Maybe it's just my phone, but the clicks seem loud in the mix. I mean, that's the thing, like, you know, playing, having stuff on the phone, it's like the speakers on the phone versus like other speakers. It's really hard to try to get a mix for this kind of thing, like the stream thing that sounds good on all speakers, and this is something that I'm struggling with, but I'm working on it. Hey, my friend Frank left a comment, you guys, a little while ago. Frank is an amazing musician, sax player, woodwind, flutes, overall amazing composer and musician. What does Frank say? Can you talk about your relationship with practice? A lot of us have these toxic relationships with practice and the guilt associated with it, usually from not doing it enough and not being focused enough, or even feel guilty for practicing a lot but not seeing results. What's your relationship with the beast? Man, what a good question. You know, I have like a knee-jerk answer for that, but I don't want to do you a disservice, Frank, by going on and on about something that may not be applicable to you and what you're doing. And what I mean by that is, for those that don't know, Frank is a full-time musician. I mean, as far as I know, and I am not. So I'm coming from a place that's like, hey guys, here's my approach to doing my thing, like whenever I want in a comfortable situation, you know, as opposed to like, hey, I've got a big band gig tomorrow and I have to really practice things that I may not want to play, practice things that I may not like, because these are the things that like real full-time musicians have to do, is you have to play things that you may not like. And practicing stuff that you don't like is completely different, because you don't get to use that secret weapon that we musicians have, which is I experience joy when I play my instrument, and that cushions the blow of having to do work. And in some instances, the work aspect of it may overshadow the joy, meaning like I have to learn this polka and I have to practice it over and over. And so the work part is much bigger than the joy part. And so the joy isn't really helping. And I sense that might be a part of the beast that you're talking about, Frank. And I think, you know, there's no shortcut to that kind of thing, unfortunately. You know, if you have to practice something that really is work, then there's other kind of motivators in play there, you know, like not blowing it on the gig and you know, your reputation and stuff. But I mean, you know all this stuff. And so getting back to, I mean, I guess like, let me reread part of the question here. Usually from not doing it enough, focused enough. Well, you know, for me, there's a direct correlation, obviously, to you know, how much practice you do like in X span of time. Like for a long time, like every Christmas I was like, how much better am I now than I was last Christmas? And for a while there, for a good while, I was pretty satisfied with my rate of improvement. I was like, well, hey, I feel like I'm a lot better this year than I was at this time last year, etc. But after a while, like I feel like one may plateau, because you get to a certain level where you're like, I mean, at the risk of sounding whatever, like you get good, you get competent, and the mystery goes away, and you kind of get it. And I think that at that point, there's a danger of becoming like complacent at that point, because you've reached the kind of top of the mountain, of sorts, not like the mountain, but a mountain that is high but not the highest. And you're like, I kind of don't need to do the work because I've done the work and I get it and I can play stuff, but that's when I tell myself that, when a beginner asks me the question, like, hey man, how do you do all this stuff? It's just amazing. I just don't get it. And it's like, the kid that is trying to learn the difference between quarter notes and eighth notes, and the guy or girl or the whomever, insert gender here, is trying to learn the difference between like, accenting groups of 5/16 notes and quintuplets, like basic thing versus advanced thing. My point is this: the process is the same. Whether you're dealing with something elementary and basic or dealing with something advanced, the process is the same. Now, the specifics of the process will be different, obviously, but the process of, I don't understand a thing, I can't do a thing, I have to work on the thing to get to the point where it's like I can do it. Like that process is the same for both. And I take comfort in that. And I have to tell myself that sometimes, especially if you reach a wall and like you can't get past it. And, I just got to take a step back, like for drumming, for example, if it's like there's a thing you listen to and you're like, man, I just don't get like what that is, I forget. Okay. Step one, what is the subdivision that we're dealing with? And if it's more than one subdivision, or if it's a 4-bar phrase, then just keep dissecting it down. Like, okay, there's 4 bars of amazingness. It's just godlike. I have no idea to do. Okay, so step one, what's bar 1? Let's look at bar 1. Okay, are we changing? Like now, look at just the count of 1 within bar 1. Like keep zooming in till you get to a point where you get some traction, and you're like, oh, okay, count 1 is this. Okay. And don't move on to count 2 until you can do count 1. Okay, I got it. Okay, now count 2. Okay, what is count 2? It's this thing. We're switching from whatever triplets to the first 2 quintuplets, like whatever. It's like, oh, okay, I get that. Now, like, just do count 2. Like, only count 2. And once you can do count 2, put them together. Okay, counts 1, counts 2. Now you've got the first half of the bar, of the first bar of 4 bars. So just kind of repeat that process, on a note by note, bar by bar, process. That's how I would approach something that's like really, really, really hard, kind of thing. And obviously you got to slow it down if you can't do it, and practice it in tempo, and just be patient, I'm just going through my Rolodex of like times where I've struggled with practicing, and tips for practicing, like whatever. I find it very useful to just stop, and come back like maybe the next day or something if I'm working on something that's hard, or just completely stop working on it and kind of like a mental palate cleanser, like just do something completely different. Like if you're working on something straight ahead, then just play completely straight, like stop working on jazz, just play like funk stuff, or if you play a different instrument, like, because, Frank, the guy who answered the question, he plays different instruments. It's like, okay, I'm having trouble with this thing on flute. It's like, okay, put the flute away and just, have fun on the sax for a while. Basically, like, reset the brain or stop altogether and come back the next day. Or if you don't have that kind of time, come back 20 minutes later, go take a walk, do nothing that has anything to do with music. Basically, do what you got to do to kind of reset. And then when you come back, I can all but guarantee that your perspective will be, changed such that traction may come a little faster, because the things that were kind of getting in the way, they may not be there, So I don't know, that's going on and on about practice. But let me just, the guilt associated with it. In terms of like dealing with the guilt, I mean, I don't know, usually from not doing it enough or not being focused enough. I mean, the thing is, like, Frank, you and I have been doing this long enough to where it's like, we know what's going to happen if you don't do the thing, consequences. And so that's going to happen. And I don't mean you, I mean like just in general. Like, one knows that if you don't do the thing in the way, like, and you know that how much you have to practice something before you get good at it. And if you're blowing it, like while you're practicing it, right away I'm blowing it. I'm not practicing it, the way that I should. I'm not practicing it enough, blah, blah, blah. And so consequences. And so there should be no surprises, That's the thing, is I kind of look at it from like an objective point of view. Not like, I'm certainly not surprised, You shouldn't be surprised, like, I can't do this thing. Well, that's because I didn't practice it. You know what I mean? Like, you've been doing it long enough, like you start to see the pattern. It's like, okay, so no surprises. And so I don't feel guilty about it. I have a clear understanding of it. And I make peace with my suckiness. You just make peace with your suckiness. You have a clear understanding of it. It's like, well, I'm the guy or I'm the girl who can't do this thing because I didn't practice it enough. And it's funny, this kind of like, I don't know, I should move on to another question, but I constantly find myself kind of disappointed in some big name drummers, like some of these rock guys. Like, I grew up with rock and roll, and then I got into like other aspects of drumming, like kind of, jazzy fusion stuff, which in my opinion, the drumming is much more complex, and it's just the kind of style that I prefer, but it all applies to rock. And so I never understood these guys that like they make it to the rock thing and they're playing arenas and they've made it and they're big name drummers and they totally plateau. I don't get that, because it's like, okay, you're obviously interested in drumming. There's so much more out there that you could be getting into, that you could apply to your playing, that you can improve your playing with, to improve the sound of this band that you're playing with over time and grow. There's just so much out there. And like, guys that they make it and they don't have to work day jobs anymore. It's like, well, you're a full-time musician, and it's like, man, like, get better. Like, keep going, keep practicing. Have you heard of this guy? Have you heard of this guy? Have you checked out this guy's drumming? Like, there's stuff there, and they'd be interested in it. There's amazing drummers out there, and it's not like, oh, I don't like that style of drumming, or I don't like the kind of music that person plays. That's fine. I guarantee there's still something that you can get from it, and I find that a little frustrating. Anyways, I'm going to shut up now. That was from my friend Frank talking about practice. Let's see. How often do you play up down kit setup, and how does your playing change when you play a smaller kit versus my playing doesn't change. It's all part of the same thing. This is Alan Ford on YouTube. He's saying, how often do you play, one up, one down kit setup, and how does your playing change? I want to get to the point where it's like, I can play fairly comfortably on any reasonable kit. Once you play enough, once you practice enough, you should be able to do your thing. I mean, as long as it's not like, oh, I'm on, what's his name from Dream Theater, the Mike Mangini. Like, if you're on his kit, then good luck, because his stuff is really high and stuff, and he is amazing at that stuff. But I'm just saying, like, I want to get to a point where it's like, you'd sit down on almost any kit, and you want to be able to self-mix, like, spend time practicing playing quiet, spend time practicing playing loud. The best exercises for that stuff is just do those quiet gigs, do the coffee shop gigs, backup songwriters, play quiet jazz gigs. It will force you to be able to play your stuff, but like quieter. And so you want to be able to play your stuff at different volumes on different kits, really. Let's see, Ian says the drum sound might be delayed a tad, just to get a clear translation of what you're playing. Yes, I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case with this setup. I mean, maybe a tiny bit of latency, but we're going through a couple things here, and we're still tweaking it. But thank you for the feedback, Ian. I hope you're doing well, man. Hey, Steve, big fan of your live videos, says Noel. Thank you, Noel. This may seem like a random question, but any advice on insight on playing in double time? I would need some more. I would need some more context there, Noel. Playing in double time. I mean, double time means like we're now playing twice as fast as we once were. And so it depends on the context, like how slow were you originally playing, how fast is this double time, etc. So really the question is like get good at playing fast. And so that should help you playing in double time in any tempo. Sorry, I'm like reading ahead. Like Matthias said, unfortunately, there is no click now. Well, that sucks. I mean, I guess for the purposes of that demonstration, though, when I was using the click earlier, because we were talking about playing deceptively and leaving space, and maybe actually the fact that there was no click may have been helpful there. Let's see. Is there a best method do you recommend for developing fluidity around the kit? Man, that's a loaded question. Whew. Little metric modulation. Is there any best methods? Oh, we asked that twice. Man, getting flow around the kit is like, that's let's see what other questions there are. That's a long answer. Thanks, Steve. Great and valid question from Frank. That's totally true as far as work on joy and playing the instrument. Yeah. Hey, Steve, you're absolutely right. My wall is accents with my left hand. I hate the damn thing. Oh, I see. Yeah, accents with the left hand can be tough. That's why I think Rite of Spring is valuable rhythmically. So many polys and cross under a pulse. What are the basics of sticking needed to be good? Let's see. They're too busy partying and womanizing the practice. Oh, we're talking about, yeah, folks that make it that don't get good. We are doing 2, 4, 8, 26, and 32. So could you demonstrate some random groove, but in a way that you try dragging it, but staying still in time? There's a good question. I probably can't do that. I would have to spend time practicing that. But like playing kind of behind the beat, playing on top of the beat, I would have to spend. It's not something that I've spent a lot of time practicing actually, so I don't have any recommendations for that kind of thing. Random groove, but in a way that you try dragging it, but still staying in time. Man, yeah, that's a good question. A guy I know named Mark Pusey in the UK. I know he's into that kind of thing, and he's a super in demand like studio guy now, amazing drummer. And I remember having a discussion with him about that kind of thing. But I should kind of dive into that stuff more before getting into it. I mean, just initially off the top of my head, I would experiment with like different levels of relaxation. If I were to, first of all, I would record myself. I would turn on a click. I would record myself playing with a click, and I would experiment with different levels of, kind of tense playing, kind of relaxed playing, in addition to just deliberately, like literally playing beats, like, resisting the temptation to play them in time and kind of play them a hair later or a hair earlier, and just experiment with that. And then I would listen back to the recording, and hopefully at some point in the recording, there's something that works. And you want to isolate that part that works, and like, okay, what was I doing here? And then just kind of continue to practice that part with that method over and over, basically. So that's how I would work on that. All right. So I think we're caught up with the chat now. Someone was talking about like developing a flow. Honestly, I don't want to get too off on a tangent, but like the keys to getting good flowing playing is like ghost notes and really getting a command of the subdivisions, the whole thing that I was talking about before, and just being able to create a sequence of phrases, basically. Spending time improvising, with a pulse, playing like 4 bars, play a fill or soloing for 4 bars, and then like grooving for 4 bars, playing soloing for 4 bars, that kind of thing. Because I find that if you're able to improvise for longer periods of time, 4 bars, 8 bars, 16 bars, etc., or just sit down and just start blowing and just, without grooving, but still to a pulse, then that'll help. And, obviously, like, get comfortable, using ghost notes in any subdivision, really. And being able to, like I said, put phrases in sequences, that will create the sound of flow, So if I were to just start playing like to a pulse, for example. Oops. So the hi-hat never stops. So there's always a pulse, and it's just like improvising over different subdivision, blowing as they call it, or soloing or whatever. I enjoy doing that. And I've always wanted to be able to do that, just because I just like it how it sounds. I enjoy doing it. But there's a lot of benefits to developing that ability. And I'm not even saying I can do it well. I'm just saying, like, if you can get to a point where you can do this, then it's just this thing that you can kind of turn on if you need it, like, in a band, in a musical situation. So it's like, coming up with a 1-bar fill is much easier if you have the ability to play soloing stuff for like 8 and 16 bars. It's easy to come up with 1 bar, or 2 counts, or a snippet of that kind of thing, because really, like I said, it's just a sequence of phrases, and so you should be able to play those phrases individually, but also string them together. Okay? So I'm going to stand up now for a second. Ugh. And let's see what other questions do we have? I think it's valuable practice. Warm up to just blow as fast as possible so you know your limits. Yeah, Ian, knowing your limits is super important. Let's see, Insane. One of my favorite drummers. Do you recommend New Breed? Has it been a book that has helped you? It has not. But a lot of people recommend it. A lot of people use it. And so... I haven't used it, so I can't say, I recommend, but it's one of these books that everyone mentions, so it must be useful. I mean, honestly, like, practicing with books is like, it's so valuable, and I worry that in the age of the internet and learning from YouTube videos and stuff, there's just no substitute for like looking at something and like incorporating what's on the page or the screen now, like, into your playing. There's just no substitute for that. There was a number of books that that helped me over the years, but New Breed was not one of them. But as far as I've heard, New Breed is great for like independence and that kind of thing. Do you have a set routine? Says City Drums, fantastic, off the cuff playing. Thank you. Ian says playing to recordings can be valuable because you're presented with a rhythmic comping when you come up with on your own. Yeah, that's true. Which book is your favorite? Well, when I learned basic jazz drumming, I did the Chapin book, Advanced Techniques for the Modern Drummer, it's called, which is a book to learn like basic jazz independence. And by independence for jazz, I mean being able to play the swing pattern on the right hand and playing different phrases with your left hand or your foot without changing the swing pattern. The Ted Reed syncopation book obviously is good for that, as well as a bunch of other stuff. Someone actually asked about that. So I spent a lot of time working into those books. Even in the Odds by Ralph Humphrey was helpful when I was in school, dealing with odd meter and odd groupings. And those are the books that come to mind for now. But yeah, the New Breed book is everyone talks about it. Let's see, playing a recording. Yeah, we talked about that. Someone said that the click wasn't like in the mix before. Let's see if we can get the click back. Do some more playing with the click. I need to work on my playing in 3, actually. There's a tune. Let's see, cancel. So I'm using an old iPhone for for click purposes. Let's see. There's this tune that I really like that's in 3 called Raju from John McLaughlin. There's a couple different renditions of it, but it's this kind of up-tempo 3 thing, like, and so I'm trying to get comfortable with that. So there's a click in 3. Can you guys hear that? You should be able to hear that click. Oh, now you should be able to hear it. Oh, actually, no, it's not going in there. All right, stand by while we get the click working. There we go. It's way too loud now. Okay. All right, that was a little better. It's so much easier when the when the click is blasting, you know, when it's blasting 1 like that, you know. That was playing in 3. Sorry, real life stuff. Just checking notifications. Anyways, my name is Steve Holmes. Thanks for hanging out. We're streaming live from Los Angeles. We're doing some drumming. We're chatting about drumming, which I find, you know, just as, if not more enjoyable than actual drumming. Although playing in 3 was very fun. I mean, there's that tune, you know, that I want to do actually like a video of playing it with some friends of mine. It's called Raju, Raju, and I was inspired by it on the recording. It's called the 5-Piece Band with Chick Corea, John McLaughlin, Vinny Colaiuta, Kenny Garrett, and Christian McBride on bass. And man, it's a tricky riff. Like the main riff of the tune is it's deceptive rhythmically. It doesn't sound like it's in 3, and the playing on it is just ridiculous. And so that was the inspiration for that. Let's see what folks are saying, and then we're gonna wrap it up here because I have a dog inside that I need to check on. All right, so we got the click working. That's good. Matthias says nice balance between the click and the drums. That's good. Let's see. Let's turn off the click. Actually, it's not still. I don't think it's still going, but just in case. Man, I have this old iPhone 6S that's like cracked, and I'm using that to feed a click into the unit. A little bit of Stewart Copeland. You know, speaking of Stewart Copeland, let's see, Smooth Operator on YouTube. I was talking about Stewart Copeland. Drumeo just put out a new video talking about Stewart that's really good. And whenever I see, like, you know, I don't know, whenever I see a video of something that professes to be something, I'm very, like, arms folded and kind of critical. But they did a great job on their Stewart Copeland video, mostly because they talked about the hi-hat, you know, enough, because you really got to talk about the hi-hat with Stewart. He's just untouchable, and his hi-hat playing, like, affected, like, I want to say, like, it had a cultural effect, because not only was the Police music culturally significant, but other tunes at that time were, like, doing, you know, programming drums and stuff, like in the 80s and 90s, and they were all, not all, but a lot of them were trying to sound like Stewart. You know, that guy just had such a huge effect, and his hi-hat playing, man, I just wish I could just get in a room with that guy and pull a Rick Beato and just sit in a room with him with a hi-hat and just be like, dude, let's go over some stuff and talk, you know. And a lot of it is just simple phrasing, you know, but it's the pressure he puts on the pedals to get that seamless kind of, you know, that range of, like, super tight to fully open. You know, most drummers have, like, maybe 2 or 3 steps between super tight and fully open, and Stewart has like 50, and he can go to anyone at any time, such to the point where it's like he plays whole fills just like as cool hi-hat phrases, and the little nuances is opening and closing the hi-hat a little during grooves is like it's untouchable. It's untouchable. Yeah, Stewart's a huge influence. Nice traditional grip. Thank you. I appreciate that. Let's see. Ray Sergio on Facebook. Beast Mode. Influenced me to keep practicing every time I listen to you. That's awesome. Rayo on Facebook. Let's see. Restream has congratulated me because I've gotten 100 messages. Let's see. I'm thinking of Killing Steve. This is Ian. Thank you. The shuffle was cool. Totally manhandling the drums. Let's see. Always thank you for the compliments. I don't know if it was just better with the mix, but the click or what. But to go around, you sounded like you never missed the one a single time. Yeah, we were pretty locked in there. Happy holidays, and here's a glass raised for an amazing new year. Keep on being awesome, Steve, says Eric Beesman. Those of you interested in video games and or the video game industry, Eric Beesman is a significant figure. He's been at Raven Software for a long time and has been involved with a lot of games over the years. Eric, thank you so much. I wish I could give you a bro hug. Let's see. I like how they mentioned Primus said that they always have to. Yes, on the Drumeo video, yeah, they mentioned that Les Claypool was talking about all the records they made with Primus and how they were always trying to get that Stewart snare and hi-hat sound. Yeah, go get the Police Greatest Hits and just put on some headphones and or the Synchronicity concert was the video that really blew me away. And I remember watching that like at a young age in high school, and I was all into like Rush and Van Halen and stuff, and then I saw that and I was like, oh my God. Amazing playing. Let's see, your Neil Peart homage was cool a while back. Good info. I rolled in a little late today. Oh yeah, City Drums, talking about the Neil Peart video. If folks haven't checked out my YouTube channel, there's a lot of videos on there. I would suggest you check it out. And at the risk of sounding cheesy, if you're interested in knowing when the stream happens, because I never posted ahead of time. It's never like, hey, there'll be a stream tomorrow. It's just like, boom, it happens, which kind of sucks. But that's just how it has to be for now. I mean, I might start like, hey, in 30 minutes, I'm going to start streaming. Like I might do one of those things because my life is just such that I won't know if I'll have a couple hours to do this until a little bit before, depending upon what's going on. But this is fun. I love doing this. I love drumming. I love talking about drumming. I love interacting with people and you know, answering questions. And this is just a blast for me. I love doing this. But I think we're going to call it for today. So thank you so much for hanging out. My name's Steve Holmes. We're streaming live from Los Angeles. A rundown of my cymbals and my drums should be in the description. So if folks are interested in that, and if you're interested in supporting, steveholmes@gmail.com, on PayPal. If you're interested in lessons, reach out and let's do it, man. Let's talk drumming. So I think that's it. We're gonna call it. Thanks, folks. We'll do this. I'm planning on doing this a fair bit over the break, to be honest. Because I've upgraded this setup a lot over the last month or so, and I've got it in a pretty good place. And so, you know, over the holidays, let's just go. All right. Thanks, folks. My name's Steve Holmes. We will see you next time.